LeBron, because this has been an interesting week for him. Opens the week on Sunday. 27 points on 28 shots in Utah, 1 point win. They might have lost had it not been for a timeout called by Will Hardy. The next night, he looked bad. And this is coming from somebody who's been a big fan of LeBron's since I dominated with him on NBA Live 06. That was really the turning point for me. But it opened my eyes to how special of a player he was. And obviously he's just been who he's been for the last 20 years. But, it's been the back and forth of he's defeated Father Time. The Father Time's undefeated. Father Time is just kind of showing, in different types of ways. And he did look bad on Monday night in Minnesota. But he played 36 minutes on Sunday in Salt Lake City altitude and then came back. And he's 39 years old. He'll be 40 at the end of the month, like you said. Part of that is just natural. Like, that is what it is. How concerned are you about some of these signs of wear that he's showing? Do you think that's a product of him actually wearing down or a product of the situation?
Listen, like, anybody that's tuning in and is not a LeBron fan is probably going to roll their eyes because, Gil and I have not been shy about it. It's a very pro LeBron product. Like, we're two people who think he's the greatest player of all time. We grew up watching him. Like, this is what we've seen. In like, I don't want to take the Olympics as like the grind of an NBA. Like, I'm not going to compare the Olympics to the grind of an NBA season, but like, I'm referencing the Olympics to show that like there were already those questions of like, how good can this guy really be? And then like he proved like when you really need him to be the best player on the floor for whatever the time period is in the Olympics, it's 7 games. You need to be the best player on the floor for 7 games. Like in the playoffs, like, can you be the best player in a 7-game series? Like, when you're matched up with the Nuggets and they got your number, the answer is no. But when you're matched up with the Grizzlies, a team that's a little bit more inexperienced, like the answer can be yes. So, yes, I am a little bit concerned with what we're seeing from LeBron on certain nights because there are still nights where, he had 5 triple doubles in the first 10 games of the season or something like that.
That was like 3 weeks ago.
That was only 3 weeks ago. Exactly. Yeah. That was only 3 weeks ago. So it's like, we can't, yes, it's like, there are a lot of people that are preying on the downfall of LeBron James, have been for a long time now. He's averaging 22 points per game. His average probably went up after last night, but before that, he was averaging 22 points per game. That was the least that he scored since his rookie season. Like, yes, there are signs of wear and tear, but at the same time, like, that was only 3 weeks ago. This guy was rattling off 4 straight triple doubles, and it's like, how is he still doing this? So, like, it's a long season. It's 82 games. He said he wanted to play all 82. Him and JJ Redick said, all right, now we're going to have to kind of recalibrate that. Maybe it's not in the best interest of the Los Angeles Lakers or LeBron James for him to play all 82. Should he play all 82 games? Absolutely not. Get him to the 65-game mark where he can, make his 100th straight All-NBA team and be an All-Star and be eligible for all these awards and everything like that. But other than that, get this guy ready for the grind that is the playoffs, because at the end of the day, they should still be a playoff team. Again, like, you don't want the pendulum to swing too far to the point that they're scrapping in the play-in for the 3rd year in a row or whatever. But like, get this guy geared up for the playoffs and make sure he's ready to go, because he's proven time and time again that even when he's going to be 40 years old, if he needs to turn it on for a 7-game series against a team that, is beatable, a team that doesn't have their number like the Nuggets, like, I think they could beat just about anybody else in a 7-game series if, as long as LeBron is healthy and AD is healthy and they're both playing at the highest level they can and they're engaged. But, am I going to get that concerned about a 40-point blowout in South Beach on December 4th? Like, not really. It's just, I understand why people are starting to get concerned with the signs of wear that LeBron is showing, but how many times do you have to prove to us that when push comes to shove and he needs to be the best player on the floor, that he can still do that?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that you pointed out. I think, he doesn't need to play 82 games. He's 40 years old, right? Like, he's played more minutes in the NBA than anybody else, literally. And I think the focus for them should be play him as much as you need him to stay out of the play-in tournament. I think that should be the biggest goal. So if you need him in 62, 65, 68, whatever it is, the minimum, but built-in rest, he is exempt, actually literally exempt because of how old he is and how many accolades he has. He's exempt from the player rest policy. So like, don't have to deal with all of that. Like, just do what needs to be done to make sure that you can get to the playoffs in a top 6 seed and go to work from there and avoid the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. Other than that, that should be the focus for this team. I think that there's still, moves in the cards that they could potentially make, consolidating some of the role players to maybe bring in a bigger name who's more consistent that you can rely on. But ultimately, I'm not too concerned about what we've seen. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's natural for a 39 going on 40-year-old to show signs of wear and aging. And again, we've had this conversation different times. He's had rough spots in different seasons throughout his career. And I remember last year, like right after he turned 39, he had a crazy stretch. And the year before that, right after he turned 38, he had a couple of like 40-point games. So I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a couple games off and then we just see another big spurt from him. The only last thing I was going to say about him, games of 10, 11, and 12 points this year. Do you think that his streak is going to ever end of double-digit scoring games? For those who aren't aware of it, the last time LeBron James scored under 10 points in a regular season game was January 2007. I was in 8th grade. People, I am 30 years old. That's the last time that he did that. It's been in jeopardy a few times this year. Do you think that makes it to the end of the year, or do you think it makes it to the end of his career too?
End of the year, I'm going to say yes, only because there have been 2 instances now where I like legitimately thought it was in jeopardy. Like, I'm tuning into the game to be like, is he going to score 10 points? Yeah, is it going to happen? And he somehow always finds a way. And he's like one of those dudes who, like, he's going to play it off like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, oh, I don't even know that's happening in the background. But like, he's looking up at the scoreboard and he's going, oh shit, I only have 8 points. Like, I got 3 minutes to get one more bucket. Like, all right, like, he'll check himself back into the game if he has to. To the end of his career, I mean, I guess that goes as far as like, how long is he going to play? Like, if he continues to play for another year, maybe 2 years, if he wants to potentially play with Bryce in the NBA or whatever it is, like if Bryce gets to the NBA, then maybe at that point, like there are going to be some games where he checks out early and doesn't get to that 10-point mark. I don't feel as confidently to say yes on that. But I do think that he'll get to the end of the season. He'll continue to find a way to hit that 10-point mark just because that's who LeBron is. Yeah,
for sure. The thing that blows my mind is crazy. The game he was ejected for the Isaiah Stewart thing, he got ejected with 10 points exactly. So like that was like, man, this is like there's like some type of divine influence here on this streak that like how did it the only time he's been ejected in his career for that, or the first time he got suspended for something that happened on the floor, gets ejected 20 minutes into the game and he just so happened to have 10 points on the dot. And like you said, he had 10 in that game against Minnesota on Monday and had an awful shooting night. So he's definitely aware of it. I know there's been times where he's actually gone out to protect it. 2018, he had a goal to play 82 games, and goes to show you just how good of a player you have to be. Like, think about it. It's the best basketball league in the world. This guy was like, yeah, I'm going to play my 82nd game. I'm only going to play as long enough to get 10 points. There's so many people who have never averaged 10 points in a season. This guy's like, let me just be out there long enough to get my 10 and I'm good. So yeah, it's just pretty wild. One last thing I'll say about him, before this recent stretch, I saw somebody point out like how well he's passing the ball and rebounding the ball. And they're like, man, him regressing into Jason Kidd is crazy. And it's pretty wild to think that like quote unquote washed Bron in year 22 is kind of like putting up late stage prime Jason Kidd numbers, which is really wild to say.
That is hilarious. And it's also like, I mean, I just said it out loud. I'm like, yeah, this guy is only averaging 22 points per game, like his lowest since his rookie year. Like he is 39 years old, averaging 22 points per game.
And we're
like you said, there are like really, really, really good NBA players who never averaged 22 points in a game an entire season of their career. So, everything's with a grain of salt. He's setting a new standard every single time that he steps on the floor. But it's just like, it's regression for LeBron. But like you said, that regression turns him into like, probably still one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history, as a 39-year-old.
Yeah, year 22, he's 22 games in. He's averaging 22.3 points, 9 assists, and 7.9 boards per game. So newsflash, if you wanted a reminder of his greatness, we're discussing whether or not this guy is washing over the hill with those numbers. So that should tell you everything you need to know about the standard for LeBron James.